Hey guys, this is Bruce and this is ConvoCourses, and I wanted to talk to you guys about something close to me right now, what's going on right now in my life. So right now my current position is cybersecurity consultant. I do this for a major company and we do B2B. Essentially we do assessments for hospitals, banks, financial institutions, manufacturing, all kinds of organizations we do all these assessments for. So my full-time job right now is a cybersecurity assessor is what I do. And we do risk analysis. We analyze the risk on organizations. It pays really well. I work remotely and there's many other opportunities that I can now take because of this. And before this, I was an ArcSite engineer back when ArcSite was huge. Now not so much. It's been taken over by Splunk and other stuff. But I worked in a SOC, Security Operations Center, as an analyst, where we're looking at logs going through just thousands of terabytes of data going through the network, and we're looking for cybersecurity threats and incidents and things like that. We're responding to security incidents, and that's what we were doing. But the reason why I want to tell you these recent positions that I've done is because all of this came from my foundations as an information system security officer. And that's where I started. When I was in the Air Force, I was put in a position where I was doing information system security officer work. I learned all of that stuff from reading the actual manuals, the actual laws, the actual policies to learn how to do this stuff. Knowing all of that, the experience that I gained from being an information system security officer has helped me to be a great cybersecurity analyst, a great cybersecurity assessor, and because it allowed me to speak to people. And there's some other things too which I want to show you. Another thing is what you're looking at here is some of the domains of the information, the CAP. And the CAP it's a certification specifically focused on the NIST 800, 37 and 53. And it's risk management framework. That's what this certification is all about. So this certification goes into the principles of information security. The NIST risk management framework itself goes through all of the steps of the risk management framework steps. It goes through risk management framework and how it matches up with the system development lifecycle of engineering. It goes into how you determine the information system security boundaries, requirements for that, security control allocations. There's many other things. What you're looking at is like the first set of things that you see on that certification, if you're interested in taking that certification. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what this is about, and then I wanted to explain to you how knowing what I know from information system security officer work has helped me to expand my career field and helped me to be an excellent cybersecurity person. First and foremost, one of the things that the CAP goes into and a CAP is a certified authorization professional. One of the things it goes into is the information security principles. And those principles are focused on the security objectives. Security objectives are protecting an organization's confidentiality, integrity, and availability for all their information on those information systems. It's very straightforward and very simple. That's what you're doing, is you're protecting their confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So there's very basic essentials, that I learned from being an information system security officer. Some of the stuff took me years to actually really learn it. The thing that you won't see on that test, on the CAP, you'll see this stuff. You'll see what information needs to be protected and how to determine that. How does the organization determine, categorization of the selection of the security controls and what impact levels. You'll go into all that stuff, and all that stuff is really important to know, fundamentals. But the one thing that it taught me that you will not see on any test is how to deal with people as a cybersecurity person. This is something that's completely lost on many information technology people and many of my peers throughout the years, from people who are my mentors doing Unix stuff or networking peers that I had who mentored me, who taught me all this fundamental technical stuff and everything. That's all good and well, but the one thing that goes above and beyond and that was taught to me by information system security officer work in particular was how to deal with people. That's something that is not talked about that really needs to be talked about, because that's your main job in cybersecurity. And that's why a lot of information technology people particularly the more technical guys, don't like doing cybersecurity, especially the higher level cybersecurity where you're doing what we're talking about, was information system security officer work, where you're coordinating with managers and trying to talk to C-level execs and talking to people who don't necessarily understand IT. And you're talking to different levels of people and you're speaking different languages. And that's why it's difficult. And let me explain. So as an information system security officer, what I quickly was pushed into is that, first of all, it wasn't 100% technical, right? I'm not talking about routers all day. I'm not talking about why is this router not talking to this switch, or what is port security on this port right here. We got to troubleshoot this and make sure this thing works. That's not what you're doing all day long, right? As an information system security officer, what you're doing is you're trying to ensure that the organization has a proper security posture. What that means is you're concerned with the mission of the organization, what kind of information is being sent or stored or processed, where that information is going, how the organization is protecting that information, that's security controls. And you're making sure that all of that stuff is being done within the guidelines of the organization's own security policy, and that security policy matches with the federal, state, or local laws that need to be abided by. That's what you're doing. That's your job. And the day-to-day looks like meetings. That's what it looks like. Because what I just told you, it sounds pretty nebulous. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. I didn't tell you, this Cisco router has to talk to this Juniper router. It's very specific, right? When you're doing pure technical IT, it's very, very specific. But what I just told you is a bunch of meetings. That's coordinating with the stakeholders of the organization, because you need to know if you're not the one putting all these security controls on the system. That might be the network team that puts the security controls on the routers and the switches. It's probably going to be a firewall guy or girl who is actually making sure the rules are in place. There's going to be some help desk people who are actually making sure that the virus signatures and the multi-factor authentication is in place and all that kind of stuff. There's so much coordination with all these different parts of the organization. As an information system security officer, you have to make sure that all of these things are happening. So you'll have to have a meeting maybe with the help desk people to make sure multi-factor authentication is being done properly. Or, hey, why do we have these Mac systems on our system? We're only supposed to have Windows 11 or Windows 10 or whatever. When are we going to transition these Windows 7 systems over to a Windows 10 system? Why are they still on this now? And they might come back and say, well, we have to have Windows 7 because whatever, right? They have their own reason. And then you're going to document all of that kind of stuff in the security controls. So it's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of coordination. Since it's a lot of meetings, you have to really know how to talk to people. You have to know how to talk to the technical people. When you're talking to technical people, they have a certain jargon. They expect you to know certain things before you come to ask. When you ask them a question, you got to be very specific with them. You really got to. Sometimes I find myself, when it comes to talking to technical people, I find myself taking a couple of minutes or hours sometimes to actually research the problem before I even formulate the question. I have to formulate the question in a very accurately technical way, a technically accurate way, so that when I ask them, it makes sense. So as a cybersecurity person, you have to understand enough about information technology to articulate and explain to a highly technical person what the problem is. What security control needs to be put in place. Why is this security control not working? And why do we need to put this other one there? And why do we need this other compensating control? So because we can't put multi-factor authentication on there. Like, you have to know, you have to have a certain level of technical skill set and knowledge to be able to explain to a highly technical person who's very deep and in the weeds on all this stuff, right? This is a person who does maybe Active Directory every day. So they know everything about it. You just know this one problem that's on Active Directory. I mean, you might have messed around with it. You know what it is and stuff, but you're not in it. You can set up a whole architecture from scratch or anything. Your technical know-how doesn't have to be at their level, but you have to be smart enough on that technology to explain to them why you need multi-factor authentication on a certain thing. So you have to talk to the technical people, okay? You also have to be able to talk to the managers. So talking to managers is a bit different because you don't have to be super technical with them. In fact, you got to kind of dumb it down. Like, dumb it down is probably not the right word. I'm not trying to be disparaging. But what I'm saying is you need to put it in their language, right? They don't speak in technobabble. Their language is in operations. How can we get this thing to continue to run, right? That's where their language is at. So instead of having an issue with, you had to explain to them, for example, why, let's say, Windows 7 is still on your network, right? And you guys are all transitioning to Windows 11. And Windows 7 is still on here. So you had to go to the technical team, the help desk, and ask them, hey, why is Windows 7 on these? So why do we have these 5 Windows 7 systems still on our network? This is an end-of-life item. This is hurting our bottom line, our security posture. When can we move these out, right? I need to tell management something. And you have to articulate to them. You have to have a level of technical knowledge to actually explain that to them. They, when they tell you why they're still on Windows 7, and they might say something like, well, we have a homegrown software that cannot work on Windows 11 or Windows 10. So we have some developers who they have to have Windows 7 because the software that they developed and that they need to do operations only works on Windows 7. Right. And it's only on these 5 systems. And then you as a security person would say to this technical person, well, do we have any security that's in front of that? Like, do we have anything that's protecting? Maybe is it in its own network, for example? Is there like firewalls around it? Is there something that we're doing to protect those systems, Windows 7 systems, that are no longer being supported by the vendor? Is there any? And so technically you'd have to know, like, end of life, that means Microsoft is no longer going to support those systems. So how are we going to protect them? What is our compensating control? They come back to you. They explain to you what's going on. Now you got to go to the management and you got to speak in their language. Not super technical, right? But you've got to be able to articulate, number one, what is the problem? In non-technobabble. So you might come to the manager and say, listen, we have these 7 Windows systems or 5 Windows 7 systems on our network. But here's the reason why. There's a business need for them. Business need, right? You're using keywords. We have a business need for this. We have a critical software that the software developers need to do their work. It does not work on Windows 10. They've been doing testing, but it does not work on Windows 10. With managers, you got to have some details that support the business need, right? Because that's where their headspace is at. Operations, business need. Why do we have this here, right? I don't know is not an answer for them. Right? You have to have an answer for them. So that's where you go talk to technical people, you get all these answers. And you're telling them, okay, we have a business need for this. A strong business need. We're trying to test it out and get it on Windows 10, but it's not working out. But we have compensating controls. We have controls in place that make sure that these systems, these 7 systems that we have, are still protected. They're on a separate network, right? They only work on that separate network. It doesn't go off. They don't have access to the internet, right? There's 2 or 3 different things that are guarding these systems so that nothing gets in or out, right? We're minimizing the risk to the systems. These are all keywords and stuff that you're using, but you're focused on the operations, the business need of the organization as a whole. You see how you have to switch? On the one hand, when you're talking to the technical people, it's very specific. It's system level. It's very specific and talking about this one technical issue. Then you got to switch gears and you're talking to management. And for a manager, you're speaking from the perspective of the operation. You're looking over, objectively looking at this thing as an operational person from their perspective and saying, why do we have this here? And do we have to have it? Are we still trying to protect it? And then another thing is time frames. When can we get this off of our network? Is there a chance that we can? And while it's on our network, how are we protecting it? So you're thinking from the perspective of protecting the organization as a whole, right? Then you want to switch gears. So we talk technical. We communicate with a technical person. We communicate with a management person. We also have to communicate with C-level execs who speak a totally different language than both of them. Sometimes those guys can switch gears right into technical, right into management, but really time is the thing that they have the least amount of. So with them, you want to get straight to the point. You want to give them the executive summary and be ready for any details that they ask. So a lot of times when I talk to C-level execs, I'll have with me, especially on a very complex system, I'll have a team of people with me. I'll have some, if I don't know the firewall stuff, or if take into example of our end of life items, right? If I don't know all the details, the technical details of why we have Windows 7 and what's the software, right? I don't know nothing about the software, but I know that Windows 7 is no longer, it's end of life. I might bring in somebody with me because I don't know all the answers for the software development team. I might have a software developer there who can go, if the C-level exec asks, they'll be able to go into greater detail about why this software doesn't work with Windows 10 and Windows 11, right? So I'm prepared. With C-level exec, the biggest thing is to be prepared. If you have to practice it a couple times so you're smooth, right? And have answers, because they have to get to the point, right? Have answers all the way down, technical answers, operational answers, and be ready to tell them, I don't know, but I'll find that out. Do not try to BS a C-level exec. Do not do it. They can sniff it from a mile away. So you want to be very to the point with them. You want to very quickly tell them the technical aspect without getting into too much technical detail. You want to tell them the management side, the operational business need for why, and then that's it. Do you have any questions, sir or ma'am? And then if they have very deep questions, you might have somebody there to help you out. So that was one of the things that I learned from being an information system security officer. All this other stuff is important, right? Knowing what a confidentiality is and integrity, and knowing all the steps of the risk management framework and how to categorize the system, and when 830, that's essential learning. You have to know that stuff, right? I'm not saying you don't have to learn it, but the main thing that I learned is how to communicate with these different levels of the organization. And because of that, I'm now a cybersecurity consultant. I can talk to financial institutions easily. I can talk to manufacturing institutions. I can talk to, because it's all the same. If I'm talking to a technical person, I need to know their language. I'll come with them prepared with exact language on that specific system. If I'm talking to a management person, I know that they're concerned with the operations. They just want to know, okay, what do I have the resources to do this? How long is it going to take? Why do we have this here? Do we have a business need for this thing? And then if I'm talking to a C-level exec, we got to get to the point immediately, and we need to have answers. I'll get straight to the point. I won't go into crazy in the weeds detail that's going to lead us on a wild goose chase. I'll tell them exactly what's happening, and then do you have any questions? If they have any questions I can't ask, I'll pull somebody else in that can answer the question. If I can't answer it, none of us can. I don't know, sir or ma'am, but we'll find that out. So it's been a great journey for me, a huge learning journey for me, because information system security officer work helped me master policies, to be able to look at a policy and know how to assess an organization. It helped me to be able to speak, most importantly, speak to all those different tiers of an organization and figure out how we're going to navigate and reduce the risk of an organization's findings. So it's really important. Like if you're thinking about if you're on the fence about doing information system security officer work, if you're on the fence about doing security compliance work, let me tell you, the experience that you're going to gain from this is huge, and it can open up. If you're interested in the cybersecurity field, if not, this is probably not for you. Go do firewalls, go do something else, right? But if you're interested in going deeper into this, if you're deeper into having a holistic understanding of cybersecurity, if this sounds interesting to you and not necessarily all just in the weeds type stuff, then you really want to look into information system security officer work. And if you are interested, check out all the stuff that I have on my channel, ConvoCourses. You can also check out ConvoCourses.com, where I have tons of free stuff. Sign up for free, download some stuff. Every now and then I'll throw out some free random stuff for people, or discounts or whatever for people who watch. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say, guys. I just was thinking about it today and thinking about how important security compliance has been for me, and how pivotal it's been in my entire career path.